That's right. They want a polite...
All right, that's all. Next case. Let's move on. As I often say, that does open up one line, and we have only one line. I have 9 open lines. 9 lines. Only one is open at 855-47282. You can jump in with your conversation on imagining life after 3 years of a Hillary presidency, or what would the country look like after those 3 years, or where do you turn for the truth? And when I come back, if that's not enough for you, I will give you all the news, views, and reviews right here on the Savage Nation.
Driving that train, pound cocaine. Casey Jones, you better.
It is the Savage Nation. We're searching for the truth today on Talk Radio. Now, many of you think that you're going to find truth in politics. I'm quite cynical. I don't. But the worst of them all, is Bernie Sanders. Thank God he's a non-entity. He'll get nowhere. Here is a guy whose entire career has been based upon lies and deceit and hatred, jealous of everything on the earth that's better than him. So last night he's on Fox News with a fake town hall meeting. And again, he repeats the big lie that black people are being abused by white police officers, guaranteeing that another cop will die because of that Bernie Sanders. I want you to listen to Clip J on the Savage Nation.
There is no candidate in this race who has talked more about poverty than I have. And one of the things that's disturbed me, media doesn't often cover that. We have 47 million people in this country living in poverty. That is a higher rate than any other country in the industrialized world. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. I talk about poverty all of the time. What I meant by that is that in African American communities, you have people who are living in desperation, often being abused by white police officers. That is a bad thing, and that has got to change.
Right.
And that's
I want you to understand how dangerous and deadly this vermin is. This man is an evil man. This is a purely evil man. What he's doing is guaranteeing that criminals of color will be empowered to get away with their crime when they see a white cop approaching. They know the cop is going to hesitate and get killed or beaten up. There's a rule in all police work that if you hesitate, you're going to get hurt or killed. I was recently on a trip, and I spoke to some young men from South Africa. You want me to tell you what life is like in South Africa after apartheid? Would you like to hear about the apartheid that is now ongoing in South Africa against whites? Would you like to hear about the crime and the rape and the murder in South Africa? Would you like to hear about gun laws in South Africa? Would you like to hear what's coming in America unless this tragic trajectory that we are on is stopped? The tragic trajectory that we are on must be stopped, or we will be living in South Africa in a very short period of time. Now, many people would love that. You say, well, they should get even. The Bernie Sanders of the world would just love that. All of the race mongers, the haters, would just love it. All of the liberal professors would just love it, wouldn't they? I'll tell you all about the gun laws in South Africa another time, because you're not going to believe it. That's what will happen if Hillary wins, my opinion. Let's go to some of the callers on the Savage Nation on what will this country look like should she win after 3 years. Let's go to WJR. John, line 5. Go ahead, please.
Michael, I might be a little late on this subject, but I wanted to speak to what would the first thing...
All right, look, can you make it quick, though, because I hear you building up a little slow. Time is very short.
I think the first thing she's going to do is try to go after something on hate speech, which basically would nullify the First Amendment, and that would give her complete control.
Again, boom. All right, I believe if you go down the amendments, Hillary will go after every one of them, and she'll say it's in the name of fairness and truth, that she would eliminate fairness and truth. First Amendment, gone. Second Amendment, gone. Third Amendment, gone. Search and seizure, gone.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE. Savage. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation. Talk radio for the thinking person. Home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
Bye-bye love, bye-bye happiness. Hello,
Some turn to love for the truth. How does that work out? Last 90 days. We were talking, if you missed the opening hour, about a number of things, and the number one issue is truth. Where do you turn for the truth? Because we're living in a sea of lies. One politician calls the other a liar. Some lie more than others, but very few of them tell us the truth. If you look at the origin of the word politician, and I don't happen to have an etymological dictionary with me, I think you'll find it comes from the Greek, and it refers to the word not truth, but something else. Politician means someone who can bamboozle you, tell you one thing and do what he wants, or tell you one thing and do what she wants, tell you one thing and do another. So we don't know which way to turn. We know they're all, you know what, full of it. They all want our vote. They all want to run the most powerful nation on earth. And we don't know which one is a bigger liar than the other. So let me begin this hour by inviting you not to call because there are no open lines on that. I want to begin with something. Here is a soundbite from Hillary Clinton denying that the intervention in Libya was her idea. Now, we all know that's a lie. Listen to clip 13.
Look, it was the president's decision, and I think he listened to everybody, just as he did when we were involved in the intense review of intelligence as to whether or not the president should order action to go after bin Laden. These decisions are obviously, ultimately, the president's.
That's one of the worst lies she's ever told in a lifetime of lying. She's denying that the intervention in Libya, which saw the overthrow of Gaddafi, was her idea. First of all, she boasted about his death, and I'll play a soundbite to prove it in a minute. The whole Middle East mess, with the millions of refugees, she owns. The Arab Spring, she owns. This was funded by a George Soros front group. The architect of it was probably, correct me if I'm mistaken, I remember reading in great detail, it was none other than Zbigniew Brzezinski. If you don't know who he is, he was Jimmy Carter's, national security advisor of all people. Zbigniew Brzezinski came up with the Arab Spring. It was enacted by Hillary Clinton. When they had Gaddafi on the ropes, he begged us not to kill him. He said, if you kill me and I disappear, Libya will descend into chaos. You will have what you have in the Horn of Africa. You will have tribes taking over. You'll have tribal warlords running the country. So here's Hillary Clinton now denying that the intervention in Libya was her idea, which we know it was her idea. And listen now to a soundbite from after they caught him and killed him on the Savage Nation.
We came, we saw, he died.
Her and the sorority. We came, we saw, he died. The girls had a wonderful time. The sorority killed him. So who do you turn to for the truth, is what I'm asking you. Well, I'm trying to put the truth together for myself and for you. And this is a choice between bad and really bad, as far as I can tell. Really bad. Really bad. So where do you turn for the truth? Chris on WABC Line 6, you're up on the Savage Nation.
Good day, Dr. Savage. The only place I turn to the truth, and the only possible place you can turn to the truth, is in the past, or our history. As one of your callers said earlier, I don't listen to what they say. I listen to what they do or what they did.
All right, so now let's talk about history in general terms, because I'm a student of history. You've got a revisionist movement ongoing in the universities for a good 20 years now, started by Foucault and other madmen of the left who say that it's all a lie. All of history is a lie. It's a matter of the perspective of the historian. And they're rewriting history. What do you say to that?
Well, that's dangerous. That's very dangerous for the...
Of course. Now America is no longer a great nation. It's an evil nation. The poorest American white person is now an evil slaveholder and derived all his power from slavery. You hear this? Even though people like myself who come from an immigrant grandfather who dropped dead, that his son and his grandson, I could have a better life. But they're apparently evil men. My grandfather who worked till he dropped dead at 47. Do you understand what we're living through now? Everything is turned upside down because of the left-wing fascism that's ongoing in the world of ideas?
Right. But they try to cover up history. My biggest fear is that history will repeat itself. And you mentioned about poverty earlier. My biggest fear is this country turns back toward poverty.
What do you mean by what do you mean by turns back to poverty?
Well, when you get to socialism, everyone equal will be in poverty.
All right, you're afraid that the income redistribution will not really help the poor; it'll hurt everybody.
That's exactly right.
Well, I'm not a poor person anymore. I once was, but I'll tell you this. Obviously, I'm interested in holding on to what I've earned, and I'd rather give it away than have it taken away. Let me be very clear. I'd rather give it away than have the government take it away. So let's start with that. But number two, let us look at who actually pays the most taxes. It's people in the higher income levels who pay most of the taxes. Do you know that?
Yes, absolutely.
Or how come we don't hear that from Bernie the liar, Sanders, Mr. Sandman? Thank you for the call. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's one of the topics we're talking about. The other one is, if you just tuned in, on the Savage Nation. Imagine life after 3 years of a Hillary Clinton presidency. What would the country be like? What would it be like? And those are the two topics I want to stick with for a little while. Let's go to Dan on line 7, GDJ Radio. Dan, go ahead, please.
Dr. Savage, yeah, it's almost impossible to find, the truth. I listen to you just mainly to get another opinion. It's like they're all singing from the same hymn book from the left, and people you thought you could trust at one point all are even, going more to the left. I mean, the churches, the media, the politicians, they're afraid of being called racist, and, they're cowed. They don't want, it's disgusting.
Right, so they don't really look for the truth anymore. They just want to go along with the program. So they all say, yes, income inequality, yes, to white privilege, yes, there's global warming, yes, to transgender is better than straight gender. Yeah, I get it. That's called insanity. That's a society melting down like a nuclear power plant called Chernobyl.
Absolutely. That's why Mr. Trump is like, he's saying some of the things we want to hear. He's speaking up for people like with the border. We're watching people flood over. All
right, let's talk about that for a minute. Let's say you don't like Trump and you don't trust him and you think he's a BS artist. Has anyone else talked about the border where it became a national issue until he brought it up? No. Will he actually build a wall? I think he will, in part anyway. What would America be like if he built the wall with Mexico? Would it be a better country or a worse country? According to the left-wingers, it would be a terrible nation to stop the flood of the poor coming out of Honduras, many of whom are diseased, by the way, and Nicaragua and El Salvador, let alone Mexico. Would this be a worse country if we actually had secure borders with some medical sense in place? Why would it be a worse country to control our immigration in this country? How could that be worse?
Right. I asked those on the left. And Mexican Americans, who I assume they're Americans first, and the Pope. Are we in other countries entitled to have a secure border or not?
Let the Pope take a flight for all I care. He's the biggest liar on the planet. That hypocrite Pope flies around on Alitalia, polluting the atmosphere, and talks about global warming. He goes to the border with Mexico and has the nerve to lecture us on we should be more tolerant and admit everyone in from Mexico. Have you seen the wall built around the Vatican? Have you looked it up? Go Google it. You'll take a look at a wall. A tank couldn't get through it. When have they last accepted refugees in the Vatican?
Of course.
Hypocrite. He's the biblical representation of hypocrisy. What does he think? People are that stupid? Thanks for the call. KCMO. Hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. KCMO, Kansas City. Travis, go ahead, line 8.
Dr. Savage, it's a pleasure. To answer your question, what I think the United States would look like after 3 years of post-Hillary Clinton presidency, it would look exactly like Ayn Rand's dystopian novel Atlas Shrugged. I mean, we would have all the producers, all the innovators, all the folks out there that go out and make America happen and make it great would be relegated to the ash heap while the vermin and the parasites take over and take over the bones. And maybe if we're lucky, we have a John Galt land where there's a refuge for the like-minded folks like us that could actually make a living and innovate and do their own. Well,
it's a great novel, and it was a predecessor to that novel by Aldous Huxley called Brave New World. You know it?
I do.
Well, who was one of the survivors in Brave New World? Who fled to a secret location to build a resistance against this? It was a man named Savage. Do you remember that?
I do.
The Savage Nation, the last refuge for people hungry for the truth. But you fear we'd have an armed rebellion after 3 years of Hillary. Is that your fear? She'll seize guns. You know that.